And showtime. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the ChannelPro 5-Minute Roundup. A look at news, trends, and tips for the SMB channel in 5 minutes or thereabouts. My name is Rich Freeman. I am executive editor of the ChannelPro Network, also a co-host of this program. I am joined this week, as I am every week, by your other co-host, Eric Simpson, a business transformation and improvement advisor to MSPs and other IT providers. Eric, how goes it?
It goes well, Rich. Working towards finishing strong this year. You know, we've only got a few weeks left and trying to make the most of it. How about for you?
I am burning off as many Thanksgiving calories as I can, and I'm not quite there yet, but I'm making headway. You too?
Well, yeah, I don't know if I'm making headway, but I'm thinking about it.
That's a start. That's a start. That's good. All right. Well, our top story this week is really what's the top story in the industry this week, which is the news that arrived on Monday that Salesforce has purchased Slack for a monumental $27.7 billion. A lot of reasons or ways in which this story is interesting. First of all, I think if there was ever any doubt that Salesforce has arrived as a major power in the industry, this should pretty much eliminate that, because they are going up head to head at this point against heavyweights like Microsoft. They are trying to put their way back into the conversation with Teams and Zoom, which have been, just mentioned in the same breath repeatedly all year long as critical technologies in the work from home era. Salesforce wants in on that. And simply the fact that they were able to afford a $27.7 billion acquisition like this without it being, immediately apparent how they dovetail this technology in with the rest of what they do. There are obviously opportunities to integrate Slack closely with the Salesforce functionality, but really, I think they just see Slack as a company with enormous potential, and they see themselves as a company that can help them maybe realize that potential sooner, and they could afford to buy the company at that immense price. And it just further illustrates to me, again, the power that Salesforce has amassed in the industry right now. And really, they are still on their growth arc themselves. They have a lot to do ahead of them right now. And it's an interesting sign of how things have evolved in the industry. And it's interesting as well, Eric, quite honestly, because we talk a ton about Microsoft at ChannelPro. We talk about Zoom. We talk about AWS. We talk about Google. Salesforce does not come up a whole lot, despite the scale, their importance in the industry and the scale of what they do. I've certainly made an effort in the last year, 2 years, to write about them more and to sort of highlight for our readers the opportunity to partner with them. But that is a name that doesn't come up nearly as often as some of these other industry titans that we write about more often. And I suspect this will be changing as we go down the road. And, now that they're in the video collaboration, video communications game, I think they may be more of a player in the SMB channel.
I think you're right, Rich. I think it certainly was kind of a drop the mic moment where, Salesforce, who, many would argue, really was the impetus or the crux or the catalyst for, this kind of SaaS evolution, right? They were there at the very beginning and just kind of, slow and steady kind of wins the race. I mean, they've always been there. They're not flashy. They're not, trendy. But year over year, quarter over quarter, I mean, a very effective performer by anyone's account. And yeah, as you mentioned, I mean, being able to write a check for, almost $30 billion, right? However that financing came to be is definitely, kind of a, setting the bar and saying, oh yeah, we are here, and we are a force, in the cloud SaaS space. And I see, their strategy of picking up such a solid performer as well from a growth perspective, from a financial performance perspective, Slack, from an adoption perspective, and Slack, on their own, also being a very heavyweight competitor against some of these other collaboration tools. So I think there's definitely a financial strategy at play here, but also a very strategic kind of an M&A strategy going on with this acquisition. And I think putting, as you note, putting the Microsofts and everybody else kind of on notice.
Yeah, and I mean, what is the biggest industry story of the year, if not work from home and the dramatic explosion in cloud computing adoption and so on. And so, if you're Salesforce, and up until this point in the year, you really haven't seen exactly how you're going to play in that. Well, now you very much have a way to be part of that phenomenon, which I think we all know and believe is really going to have legs. And I mean, one of the things that's been interesting to me, again, like I said before, anytime somebody mentions Teams, they immediately mention Zoom, and those two platforms have been enormous this year. It's been a little surprising to me that Slack has not been part of that conversation as often, as well. And that's another thing that I think will change, and I'll be interested to see is how Salesforce now really kind of gets Slack into that conversation, so that when people are thinking, do I want Teams? Do I want Zoom? What am I going to standardize on? Slack is part of that conversation as well.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how rapidly they develop for that particular purpose. Microsoft Teams, they rapidly evolved that product over the last 6 or 7 months to become a worthy competitor to Zoom. I mean, adding the ability to create polls, for instance, that it didn't have, having the ability to raise your hand, for instance, these traditional type of collaboration functions that we expect from Zoom and other video platforms. I mean, I use Zoom for the webinars that I promote because it has those capabilities, and have not been able to use Teams in quite the same way. I've used Teams for webinars and online training for other clients and vendors, but have always been kind of hindered by the lack of some of these features. And to their credit, they rapidly, rapid development and release of these features to be as competitive as they possibly can. So it'll be interesting to see the approach that that Salesforce and Slack now take to maybe raise Slack to that same level of consideration and adoption as Teams and Zoom have achieved.
They will have all the resources they need to do whatever they want to do. So yeah, to be continued. I have a hunch we'll be talking about this down the road again.
Mm.
So finish strong, you were saying, Eric, and I think that is maybe a nice lead into your tip of the week.
Yeah, I think so, Rich. I think that, in taking something that you said about, kind of looking at that crystal ball, and seeing and seeing the remote workforce and the work from home dynamic that has occurred here, and really not having a clear expectation of when things might get back, if they ever get back completely, to kind of a sense of what the before four times when we were all going to the office and working in the office. I think that we're going to have folks that are business owners and businesses that kind of think, okay, we can move forward with a percentage of our workforce staying home and working, while we have kind of core folks that have to be in the office working. So the tip of the week really is to review, as a channel pro or an MSP, review your products and services and deliverables and adjust them for the new or next normal, right? I would expect you to say, wow, we're doing a lot less traditional in place on-prem infrastructure support. We're supporting more remote services, cloud services, collaboration services, communication services, moving folks more toward the cloud. So evaluate your current product and solution set and adjust it for where the puck is going to be, right? We all know that, as Wayne Gretzky said, when asked why is he so great on the ice, as well, I don't skate where the puck is, I skate where it's going to be. So where is the puck going to be for you and your clients and your prospects in 2021? Forecast that and adjust your services and solutions to be attractive and beneficial and effective for your clients and prospects. Skate to where the puck is going to be and adjust your portfolios. Of course, your SLAs may need to be adjusted. How do you deal with situations when you have to go on site? You may want to write that in to your agreements where you will maintain social distancing, or you'll have requirements for your client um, to receive your team, when they go on site, right? So you've got to change the way you're operating and think about how to be more effective, to be able to be more successful with your existing clients, as well as to sell more uh, to new prospects. And that also entails changing the way you sell. So maybe leveraging some of these platforms that we're talking about in this episode to really enhance your ability to sell virtually and conduct QBRs virtually.
Yeah, and the only thing I will say, in sympathy with the folks in our audience, is that there may never have been a harder time to anticipate where the puck is going. It is so hard to kind of predict the future, right? And especially, I think, 2021. Obviously, at the beginning of this year, nobody really understood what we were headed for in 2020. But you look at the next 12 months, and I'm seeing economists now predicting that we could be back in a probably brief, temporary kind of recession in the first quarter of the year. Vaccines will probably be in distribution in the first half of the year. But we're also probably not back to normal in that first half of the year. And what about the second half of the year? Could things maybe it's going to be a difficult year to forecast. But that said, there are certain things that you can be reasonably confident about, and we've been talking about work from home, and that's not going away even after the virus has gone away. So this is a great time. As we head into the holiday season, it's a great time to kind of take stock of what you've done in the past year that worked and maybe didn't work, and think ahead to what you're going to need to do next year to be successful or more successful. You've got a little time to think that through, and make if nothing else some good prudent predictions about what your customers are going to need.
Yeah, and I think, as a business owner, kind of reflect back on what you did this year for your existing clients that you may not have gotten paid for or charged them for, in the spirit of, we're all in this together, we'll get through this together. But, if you're delivering, additional services and haven't really trued up, your agreements because, you're a great strategic business partner and whatnot, this may be the time to do so. So if you're, supporting more devices and supporting home users, that may be at home with equipment and in the office for equipment, and you haven't really trued that up, it's time to do so. It's time to look at what you're doing, and again, adjust and present your case to your existing clients. And if you're renewing agreements with clients, again, if you're adding additional services, to where you forecast the puck to be, which is, again, there's no magic bullet, but you've got to, do things differently because business is different. Your clients are conducting business differently. You're having to support them differently. So you need to adjust your approach and make sure that, you're being compensated. There's nothing wrong with getting paid for valued services. Your business customers understand that. They would expect to be paid if they're delivering services outside of scope for their customers. So they understand that. Don't feel awkward about, having those conversations with them.
All right. Well, that leaves us with time for just one more story here. And, like we've been saying, work from home, one of the big storylines from 2020, with everybody at home for work or otherwise. Streaming video has been a huge thing for so many of us this year. And our last story of the week involves both of those different things. Now, I will say, in my own life, I do both of those extensively, but I do them separately, right? Like I'm working during the day, and the streaming is happening in the evening. But courtesy of Nielsen, the TV ratings people, we discovered this week that in August, when they did some surveys, 65% of the people that they surveyed and these are all remote workers. 65% of them said that they watched TV or streamed video content during their work from home breaks, which makes perfect sense. You're taking a break, maybe you turn on the TV. This surprised me a little bit though. 56% of them said that they watch TV or stream video content with the sound on while they're working. And 50% said that they'll do it sometimes with the sound off, but 56% of work from home workers, at least some of the time, have the TV on with the volume up. Now, personally, I don't think I would be very productive that way. I kind of need to concentrate on what I'm doing, but it did make me wonder how many people I know are actually doing this. Do you do this at all, Eric?
I do not. I'm like you, Rich. I mean, I focus on the task at hand and I'm already easily distracted. So I don't need any additional distractions to affect my productivity during the day or to put me in a bad mood if I'm hearing some news that I'm like, oh, really? No, that's not good. So yeah, I'm like you. I compartmentalize, and but I do know, folks that I've worked with in the past that they'll have music on while they're working and things like that. And I used to be able to do that when I was younger, but even now, I mean, I need pretty much silence in order to focus and be as effective and efficient as I possibly can. So yeah, I do not have anything on that can distract me when I'm focusing on stuff.
Yeah, no, I am like you, and in fact, it occurs to me that yeah, I'm the exact opposite of the person who turns the TV on while they're working.
Right.
Not all day, but a lot of the day, I've got noise canceling headphones on. Right? It's like I
Right.
don't want a hint of noise while I'm doing something.
So what
Well,
does that say for productivity and profitability for these organizations that have a large contingent of their staff in this work from home scenario? I mean, if 56% of them are having that, I mean, there's a mathematical formula that says that's got to affect productivity.
you know what? That'll be part of the work from home story in 2021. I think not necessarily the backlash, but rethinking about what does and doesn't work about work from home. There are applications that can kind of keep an eye on what somebody is doing on their PC during the workday, and I know some employers have expressed interest in deploying the software to kind of better understand what their work from home employees are up to during the and what you're just talking about there, I think will be part of that as well, is starting to measure things, especially once you get to the point where work from home is optional. I think there will be a lot of thought put into what are the pros and cons, and it'll be interesting to see what we kind of learn once we really start diving into that.
It reminds me of the arguments that we had several years ago about allowing staff in the office to participate in social networks while they're working. And we saw the impact of that on their productivity. Well, some of them need to do that because it's part of their job, but does everybody need to be on, Facebook and Twitter and all that during the workday? So I think it's kind of that same conversation now. It's like, well, we're home, we've got, decent internet. We'll be streaming video, right here in a little box while we're doing our Excel calculations. Doesn't work for me.
All right. Well, thank you, folks, very much. That is our show for this week. We thank you very much for joining us here. If you like the show, you want to keep up with new episodes, maybe look at some older ones that you've missed. Best thing to do is go to the Channel Pro Network channel on YouTube, become a subscriber. If you click that little bell icon, you'll get notifications when the new episodes become available. You want to read up on what's happening in the industry, things like Salesforce buying Slack. You want to get great business growth advice for your company, go to channelpronetwork.com on a daily basis, because we've got great new content for you there every day. To learn more about Eric and the work he does with his clients, go to ericksimpson.com. That is ERICK Simpson.com. So we are going to be back again with you in a week for another episode of the 5-Minute Roundup. Until then, folks, please enjoy the rest of your week. Eric and I are enjoying the rest of your week already.
Already.